Hi guys, good time of the day to you. Let's begin our next video with a quick reminder. In the previous videos, we discussed the first three elements of what the sport horse training plan defines and manages. We discussed needed activity volume in a lifespan across career stages, workloads in a mix, and daily activity stack. In this video, we talk about the next structural element of a training plan, a weekly activity schedule. When we think of a week planning, we juggle the training, wearing, recovery, and reflection. It is very naturally for us to think about how we train a horse and what we are going to do. Wearing, we think of it cautiously, on occasion, trying not to really think about it. And recovery kind of comes between the lines. Yeah, he was trained yesterday, he will be trained tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. He'll recover somehow. We don't think about recovery in a structured way. And reflection, how the horse reflects on the previous training is the category that most frequently completely slips through the fingers. And that is important because it's how the horse is looping through memories and integrates experience. In this diagram, you can see a weekly training schedule example. This is for the horse that is being trained 3 days per week. Such a schedule is good for who? Let's imagine it. Let's envision it. It can be a young Remont horse of training year 2, or a late to school entering of the training, somebody like ex-broodmare. And also it can be a horse in rehab, or it can be a retired horse. So we have many applications for a 3 days per week training scenario. The horse on the week A trains on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday, with absolutely a break in between. On week B, the horse is trained 2 days in a row, Friday, Saturday, and a day in between Wednesday and Friday. For each of the weeks, a horse is exposed to different training activities: work in hand, lunging, dressage work, free jumping, like in a shoot, and some field work. Well, field work is not represented for these specific examples of week A and week B. But that gives you an idea that once we map our activity into minutes and days and which activity we apply to a horse, then we get a week training profile. So that is about training. Now let's talk about wearing. Wearing. What do we do with the wearing? It's really, we cannot assess wearing very precisely. We do not have the real-time tools. It's only when we do the full assessment of a horse, we call a veterinarian, we can have ultrasound, we can have different diagnostic tools, we can have X-ray imaging. That's how we can assess what's happening inside the horse's body. So, to simplify things, what we can do is we can assign a wear-tear score to each of the activity on a scale. On the left-hand side, you can see we put some training activities in a progression for a dressage horse training. We start from low-intensity work, which is roaming for 4 hours in a grass pasture, all the way incrementally increasing the intensity to extremely collected gaits, powerful extensions, 1 tempi, passage, and piaffe. Yeah, that's the top for the dressage horse. In the middle, we have working gaits, a little bit lengthening, and also we have work over ground poles, cavaletti, and gymnastic jumping up to 2 feet 6 inch. On the right-hand side of the chart, we put the training time in hours, because it's clear that the more the horse is exposed to a certain activity, the wear and tear score naturally increases. So if we do these activities in short periods of time, then the tear and wear score is more modest. And if we do it longer, then the score increases, gets heavier. In this chart, our maximum training time is 4 hours. And this is not a training time, this is an activity time. For roaming, for example, the horse is turned out for 4 hours. In some barns, there is an opportunity for the horses to be turned out for 8, 10, 12 hours, even 24/7, which is wonderful. And we can see that for roaming, the score really does not change much. It's almost at the natural BMI of a horse, and the horse can go many hours in a good climate and good weather, and the score would be still the most modest at 0.5 on a scale from 1 to 5. Walking, marching in a field, it is if it is 30-40 minutes, then the score is again 0.5, and then the score increases to 1 and 1.5 and 2 and 2.5, and the horse gets much quicker tired, and the wear and tear on the body is greater on a third and fourth hour. Walk and trot in working gaits. 30-40 minutes, which is our typical training session, the score is 1.5. And then if we extend the training session for training in working gaits, then the horse gets more tired, hour 15, hour 30 minutes. If it is hour 45, tiredness and wear and tear increase to 3.5. So if we jump through and look at extremely collected gaits, powerful extensions, one tempi, passage, and piaffe, this is activity that has an impact on horse's soft tissue, cartilage, and bone already at the score 4.5, the highest within the first 30 minutes of training. And if we push it a little longer, it goes to a maximum, to extreme of 5. We don't want to cross the line into the yellow zone. The yellow zone is a zone of a very high risk and a risk of injury. We also want to keep in mind that the horse can progress from the light gray area to darker gray areas gradually. It cannot happen within a week or a month or even a year. It takes cycles and cycles and cycles of training waves, which I call sprints, and which we'll be discussing in the next video, how to develop the horse and expose the horse to longer intensity and higher intensity. Yeah? But for now, we just need to know. We keep our wear and tear score in mind, we assign it to certain activities, and we start using these numbers. Now we can combine the intensity and wearing, which is a wear and tear score on the left, with daily activity volume in the number of steps. In the previous video, we had a homework on mapping the daily activity stack for your horses in training. If you have a few, then it is for a few horses, and to identify the typical training days and how the daily activity is constructed, and calculate the number of steps. Guys, in this analysis, you will find the aha moments and the know-how about how to evaluate the quality of your training progression, and also if you put your horse to risk by a misbalance of the wear and tear score and the daily activity volume. At first, I'm giving you a good example. We have a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we put the wear and tear intensity wearing score in the upper square. And the bottom, we have the aggregate number of steps, activity volume in number of steps that the horse is exposed on that given day. We see that the horse is trained on Monday and Tuesday. IW is 0 on Wednesday and 0 on Sunday. This horse is a schoolmaster, and in a very, very good shape, very, very strong, good stamina. Body is developed. The horse is trained 5 days a week in 2 training waves. Monday, Tuesday is one wave, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is another wave. We can see by this weekly profile that the daily turnout in large fields promotes roaming, because you can get these activity volume numbers in combination with wear and tear score 4.0 when the horse is exposed to roaming for extensive periods of time per day. And this is the healthiest combination. We see that Monday and Sunday are oxygen and recovery days. Yeah. And this scenario is typical for dressage and eventing horses in equestrian centers with large field turnouts. So this is a good example. We see that intensity and wearing score on Monday, on the first day of training, begin from moderate and then increase to 4.0. And then on Thursday, it's 2.5 again, with increase on Friday, 2.5, and solidifying but not overextending the horse on Saturday, third day, at 3.5. This is a good, healthy template. Now let's look at not good template. This is a troubled example, really. Poor mapping of daily steps volume with intensity wearing for a schoolmaster. Here we see that activity volume in the number of steps is much smaller. It's not in dozens of thousands, it's between 250 and 1000 as a max. What does it tell us? That the horse has a very limited turnout in a small paddock when it is 1000, or 250 steps, that's confinement in a stall. The horse is trained 6 days essentially in a row, with Tuesday being a slow day, but it was still intensity. At 1, it was not a roaming day at 0.5. And 2 high intensity days, 4 and 4.5 in a row, which is not good for a schoolmaster of any age. Thursday and Saturday in this scenario are the most risky days. Why? Thursday, because intensity is high and even increases on the second day after 4.0. And Saturday is a risky day because it is 4th day in a row of activity that is moderate or above. Horse may stock up legs on Sunday. And on Sunday, because the horse is confined in a stall, the muscles will not lose lactic acid as quickly as necessary. Muscles will not stretch. So that day of a stall confinement is actually not healthy. This scenario is typical for school horses that work for retail lessons and jumper barns, or some horses of any discipline in city stables where there is no turnout, no large field turnout, only small paddocks. Recovery and remodeling patterns, we don't really think of them unless we have an injury or a very high intensity event and we have concerns about the horse's appearance without maybe even seeing clinical signs. And so we do not really take into account in our regular training the recovery and remodeling patterns that happen anyway. Micro tear, micro cracks, they're happening all the time. But because they are micro, they do not launch visible, clinically visible symptoms. And so we continue training the horse, thinking that the horse is a solid whole piece, but this is not the case. This is not true. The fact is that there are processes that are happening with the horse absolutely for sure every day when the horse is not just roaming in the large field, but we take it up and take to training. Bones, soft tissue, muscles, tendons and ligaments, cartilage and brain, different processes in the brain have different periods and patterns of recovery and remodeling. So because we riders are not veterinarians, it is unfair to expect that we would have the body of knowledge required to assess every single micro stretch in a tendon. What we can do in the planning of a horse training is we can think of average patterns of recovery and modeling for a veterinarian scenario above and for a training scenario. For either of them, the veterinarian scenario we take lasts 8 weeks on average for any part of the horse's body, and for training scenario it is 1 week. The most important body recovery period is a week following a high intensity training event, because the first week is inflammatory response, with the first 3 days of that recovery week being critical to account for while planning a weekly training schedule for a visibly sound horse. Training, building stamina, and wearing go hand in hand. High intensity training has high impact on stamina. It can create often clinically notable, expectedly repairable within a few days wear and tear. But it takes 4 days from day 0, which is a day of event, to day 3. It takes 4 days for recovery. Yeah, so we want to make sure we take the first days after high intensity training day, we account that the horse is actually working on recovery. Now, we reduce the number of days for recovery after moderate training day, it's 2. Light training day, it's 1. And low activity day, the horse repairs itself essentially within 24 hours. This is how training, wearing, and recovery intertwine. The training intensity is in the purple bell curves, in purple waves, and we see that recovery is shifted in time. So they do not match exactly. And the recovery overlays, it layers up on the right hand side. You can see that the recovery adds up, the need for the body to recover adds up, and that the recovery curve shifts even further out the more training days we put in a row. So if here after the 1 training day, on a second, third day, the horse is completely cool and fine. If we have 2 training days in a row, on the second day, the horse's body is still loaded with the recovery processes, and therefore less of the horse capacity is available to us trainers to put additional training pressure on. Exhaust aggregates peaking at 4th and 5th day. Plus, body recovery ability, to my experience, slows down after that for a few days. So the horse does not recover with the same pace. The recovery pace a little bit slows down. In this example, we see what happens with the wheels if a horse works 5 days a week in a monotone way, like a school horse would, that makes an effort comparable with the lower competition levels. That's familiar to all, right? So the exhaustion in the body aggregates and peaks on the 4th and 5th day here. There are the days and experiences when horses, out of self-preservation, begin acting lazy, learn how to act lazy, and how to successfully sabotage demands of a human being. This pattern assumes that a horse has excellent sleep and large roaming area daily. However, we know that most horses are confined in small stalls, do not have enough clean bedding for a deep sleep laying down, and turnout is limited in time and in small dry lots or sand paddocks that do not promote roaming. Then this week chart looks even grimmer. Some horses do not have days off, either because they are school horses and objects for cash flow, or because their riders trainers are obsessed with their mounts, that also happens, cannot let go. Puzzled? Come on, it's not that hard. Well, we define training weeks from human perspective, thinking work, money, shows, clinics, bar, trip, school for children, filling gas tank, etc. These things determine our behavior, and horses are subjects to full submission to it. But if we take a stretched arm and wipe all the human dimension things off the table, what's left? What happens to a horse in horse terms? This is what I'm trying to demonstrate in these charts. The success of this video I see not in every viewer defining with a sheet of paper and a pencil every single week of 56 weeks in a year. That is only what the most dedicated professionals or very logical people would do. In North America, most equestrians are women, and women are in majority are feeling and intuitive, less inclined to resort to conscious structural or mathematical processing. But what happens is, once a concept is introduced and understood in detail by a feeling and intuitive individual, then it's not the conscious, it's our subconscious that takes all knowledge base into account and feeds the insight for sport horse training, planning as intuition. It gets then mixed into our human life naturally. Like something tells you that you'd rather skip that shopping trip and add 2 training days for your horse this week. Or it's better to give your horse a day off even if a training day was planned or is possible the next day. Reflection and recovery remodeling are going hand in hand. Experience integration into knowledge, enlightening, and new neuron connections are happening not only during the training session itself, but they're also happening at rest. Horses loop through their memories, integrate, compartmentalize, and amplify impressions during looping of their memories, impressions of life experiences. Sleep and quiet daydreaming have more memory looping, but looking out the windows counts too. Reflections also layer up. Just look at this weekly chart. The previous weekly patterns were simple. Now let's spice it up. In this chart, we vary training activity intensity. We have high, moderate, and light training days in purple. We spread training days apart. You see 3 day off, 1 day off, 1 day off. We remove recovery stream, assuming it is perfect and ongoing, with activity steps and very good recovery time and conditions, and add mental reflection during sleep cycles. So the blue bubbles are reflections. Horses have a very good long-term memory, and they reflect on everything they see and experience, looping through memories in their mind vividly. When they loop through their memories, both brain and the rest of the body, including nerves and muscles, are involved. Horse brain sends microsignals to muscles, which quote-unquote continue training through reflective visualizations and sensations even at the rest and recovery hours. Did you hear expression? Horses train themselves in a stall. It is about the power of reflections on training and performance. Reflections amplify and engrave deeply both positive and negative experiences and conclusions. Horses reflect the most on what happened that day during training sessions. Impressions from yesterday and the day before, however, will also weave in. After third consecutive training day, the horse's brain is full of reflections, and it's good to give a horse the time to process and free up some mental space. These are examples of the weekly training schedule. 3 days of work, 4 days of work, 5 days of work, and another 5 days of work. 6 days of work. Less is more. We want to keep daily activity volume in terms of number of steps balanced with the intensity and duration of time of the training sessions. Because we want to do less training sessions, we strive for quality training sessions. Apply intervals and training waves already in weekly schedule. You want to build stamina on low-intensity activity with longer sessions. Roaming for long hours daily is vitally important for horses' health and assuring body capacity to accommodate gradually growing pressure from the training.